Welcome to Humane Voices, the official podcast of the Humane Society of the United States. I am Chad, alongside Kelly. How are you, Kelly?
Hello, I'm good. Good to be here.
Good. You know, it seems like there's one of these special days for everything now. I've looked up a few of these weird ones, like National Iced Tea Day and International Joke Day, Build a Scarecrow Day. I'm sure these sound inane.
There are. And I got to tell you, Chad, so in July, there's a few of my favorites. There's a ice cream day, chocolate day, and I think even National Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Day, which are all some of my favorites. But I think you're going to talk about, you're going to intro one of the very best days.
This is an important one. There's a way for everybody to help. There's some chimps that we'll talk about who need some help on this. And so let's get into our guest. Our guest today is Kathleen Connolly, Vice President of Animal Research Issues at the Humane Society of the United States. Welcome, Kathleen.
Hi there. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So in a few days, this is going to be World Chimpanzee Day. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yes. World Chimpanzee Day. There are many days, but this is one I cherish a lot. July 14th is known as World Chimpanzee Day, and it really is a celebration of chimpanzees and those who are doing so much to help them in the wild and captivity. And it started July 14th, 1960 was when Dr. Jane Goodall set foot in Tanzania and started her trailblazing work on wild chimpanzees.
And Jane Goodall was our recent cover star on All
Animals, right?
That was awesome. Yeah, just recently. That was very cool. So Jane Goodall kind of kicked this whole thing off with World Chimpanzee Day.
Yes, the Jane Goodall Institute, North American Primate Sanctuary Alliance, and others kicked off this day.
That's fantastic. So we've got an action, and I want to mention it kind of right off the top, and we'll mention it again a few times, but there's a website that I'm giving the audience here that this is super easy to do. This is a way you can raise your hand and just put in your name and address and raise your hand to help these chimps that Kathleen's going to talk about. But the action is, if everybody's ready with their pencil, it's humanesociety.org/NIH chimps. That's National Institutes of Health, NIH chimps. humanesociety.org/NIH chimps. But Katie, continue. What's going on with these chimps that we're trying to help?
So while we want to celebrate lots of chimpanzees, we do have an urgent situation here in the United States where the National Institutes of Health, or NIH, as you said, is refusing to send government-owned chimpanzees to sanctuary, as is required by a law we passed 24 years ago, which means that there are chimpanzees who will spend the rest of their lives and die in laboratories unless the public does take that action that you've pointed them to.
And Kathleen, why are they refusing? What's going on with this? Why are they refusing to help them? Yeah, this doesn't.
There is a claim by the government that these chimpanzees are too sick to move, which we totally disagree with. And just to rewind, we did pass a law 24 years ago saying that chimpanzees, it created a national sanctuary system, and chimpanzees deemed no longer necessary for research should be afforded the opportunity to live in a more natural environment at a sanctuary. And they are refusing to follow that law.
Wow.
And how many chimps are we talking about?
So the very first group of chimpanzees we're focused on is a group of 26 of them at a facility in New Mexico, a laboratory in New Mexico. And the good news is we had, just to rewind again, we passed that sanctuary law in 2000, which said chimpanzees should be retired after their use in research. But at that time, chimpanzees were still being actively used in research. We have ended chimpanzee research in the United States about 9 years ago now. And it was always our intention, once we ended chimpanzee research, we'd ensure all these chimpanzees went to sanctuary. And the National Institutes of Health did say 9 years ago, we are not going to use chimpanzees in research anymore, and we're going to retire all government-owned chimpanzees to sanctuary, which of course we applauded, and we thought, well, great, we're all moving ahead as we had planned. And unfortunately, the chimps got the rug pulled out from under them 5 years ago now, with NIH saying, never mind, we changed our mind. We're not going to move them. They are too sick to move. Now, they've been claiming that was 5 years ago, right? That they're moribund, they cannot be moved. I think we all can agree that a moribund chimpanzee should not be alive 5 years later. I mean, that is not what the definition of moribund is.
Wow.
There is a reason this is happening is the government is giving a contract to a biomedical organization, Charles River Laboratories, to take care of these chimpanzees. So it was their own veterinarian who said these chimpanzees were in fact too sick to move.
So just to be clear, Katie, to paint this picture, so we're talking 26 chimps are sitting in a lab in New Mexico, and by law, they should be going to sanctuary. We obviously want them to go to sanctuary, but they're not being experimented on anymore, but they're just there at this lab.
Yes. We say they're languishing in this lab. They could be afforded a time where they could live in large habitats in a multi-male, multi-female group like a chimpanzee should. Instead, they're languishing in this laboratory. And, I think people are surprised when they learn chimpanzees can live to be 60 years old. There's a chimp there, Montessa, who's 50. She was captured from the wild, taken to laboratories, experimented on, had numerous babies taken away from her. I mean, she should absolutely not be left in that lab to die. And so we're doing everything we can to try to get them moved.
And space exists for them. It's not a matter of where can they go, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, there is the sanctuary will create space for these chimpanzees. They stand ready to do so as soon as NIH gives the green light. But we did sue the agency. So importantly, we passed the law. We're not just saying you're required by law. A judge confirmed they are required by law to move these chimps. And so we're looking at all of our options, and I brought up that we ended chimpanzee research in the United States. This was because the public took action. And so the public does have a voice here, and we want them to continue with it. We've been advocating for these chimps for way too long to let these 26, and there are another 43 at a different laboratory that they have since said, the Alamogordo chimps were the first ones that NIH had said they're not going to move. But 2 years later, they brought up this other group of chimpanzees. So we have, nearly 70 chimpanzees, but these 26 are the first ones we're focused on.
Okay. Wow. So that might not end with this 26. Even if they get out, there's more that the government's holding on to for some reason.
That law does apply to all chimpanzees who are government owned. So, but our priority is the ones in Alamogordo as a first step.
Okay. So everybody, it's humanesociety.org/NIH chimps. It's super easy. You just give your name and address, and Katie, tell me, you're sending a letter to somebody to tell them, hey, let's get these chimps out of here.
Yes, it's the new director at the National Institutes of Health. So we hope that she will, reverse this decision that was made by the previous director. She has committed to Congress that she is going to follow the Chimp Act, and we urge her to do so. It does seem that so far they're saying they're not going to move them, but we're going to keep pressing until they change their mind.
Well, and people, we often think, oh, we can't fight, City Hall. But do you think, having for our listeners, and I'm guessing like Chad and I are, upset now thinking these chips are just, as you said, languishing, cold lab, public pressure put on the new, especially being a new NIH director. Do you think a groundswell of people really acting that could make a difference?
Absolutely. This director has not heard from us on this issue. She did not experience firsthand the public weighing in. It was pressure that got them to ultimately end chimpanzee research and make that announcement about retiring them to sanctuary. We just can't let the laboratories win here. And importantly, I think Congress cares about the chimpanzees and taxpayer money. It's more than twice as much to keep them at this laboratory. We could save tens of millions of taxpayer dollars, believe it or not, if we just move these 26 chimpanzees.
And we all care about all animals, but let's face it, aren't we fairly closely related to chimpanzees?
Yes, and they are the most genetically related to us of any animals. We're closer to chimpanzees than chimpanzees are to other great apes.
Wow.
So, family. We got to get family out of there.
Right. They are family, and they're relying on our voice. They can't speak for themselves. They have learned sign language. They probably would say they want to get out of there, but they're counting on us to do so.
Wow. Well, Katie, just and to back up, you had mentioned to us in the pre-interview about it was 9 years ago the U.S. stopped research on chimps. Is that right?
Yes, it was 9
So
years ago.
who is currently in the world testing on chimps?
We are the last country to do so. So
Wow.
no one ever thought we'd end it here because we were the last. And, there were many who were continuing to say we had to use them, otherwise humans would be at risk. That, in fact, was not the case when there was a scientific study done. So we do have to overcome these claims, right? Historically, we've overcome these claims, and we're going to do so again.
Yeah, it's the whole smoking is good for you. No, no, no. There's a government report. Smoking's all cool.
As a matter of fact, we've taken a closer look.
Yeah. Wow. Well,
So
Katie,
that's
this is great. I know you come to this from a real place of passion. I mean, you've worked with chimpanzees in your career. You've dedicated your life to helping these animals. It's pretty astounding. You've been over to our work in Liberia, which is also an impressive place. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the work in Liberia that's happening?
So we are actually taking care of chimpanzees formerly used in research directly with our own sanctuary in Liberia, Africa. These chimpanzees were used in experiments by a US-based institution for decades. So I am also celebrating, while we're pressuring NIH, I'm celebrating our colleagues on the other side of the world who are taking care of these chimpanzees every day. Our caregiver team and veterinarians are delivering 500 pounds of food twice a day out to the chimps. They are living the life they should be living, and that's what we're going to make sure happens for those chimpanzees in the United States as well. So shout out to our team in Liberia for all their great work.
Rick, approximately how many chimps are over there in Liberia that we're taking care of?
Over 60 chimpanzees.
Wow.
They live on 6 islands. It's an undertaking every day to go out there twice a day to feed them. But there's nothing more breathtaking than pulling up in a boat and seeing those chimpanzees who are living the life they deserve.
Absolutely. That's
So it
amazing.
sounds like that's all we're asking of our listeners is just help these, any that are remaining, these 26 in a lab in New Mexico, and taking action. Chad, what's that website again?
Yeah, take action, everybody. It's humanesociety.org/NIH chimps. It's super easy. It'll take you 30
Our
seconds.
family needs us.
They're
Absolutely.
counting on us, and like you said, the public's voice really does have influence. So we're counting on everyone to join us.
Well, Katie, thank you so much for joining us and talking about this really important issue. We're keeping it short, but we wanted to really focus on that action that everybody can raise their hand and help these chimps get to where they need to be.
World Chimpanzee Day.
Go chimps. Go people on behalf of chimps.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
And we'll be back soon with another episode of Humane Voices.